Joe Samaniego from Portland International Raceway. The first day of the ABB Formula E. Portland E-Prix is in the books. Most of the day was the teams preparing, a short shakedown, and then the first practice that saw Rene Rast being the fastest. Now, one of the things that really stood out in the practice, we didn't see a whole lot of pack drafting, slipstreaming. With this track being the third longest of the year, the long straightaways, a lot of drivers are anticipating a very fast-paced race. And the big packs, we talked to several drivers today in the media bullpen. Here's what several of them had to say about racing in Portland. Mitch Evans, welcome to Portland. One of the big things we know when it comes to the championship fight, it's going to be pretty much a big battle here, and we got a permanent road course. How is this going to affect the strategy compared to if we were racing in a street course?
To be honest, quite a lot. It's changed the whole dynamic of how we're going to be approaching the weekends. It's quite an energy demanding circuit, so we use a lot of energy to do the laps. So the race will be very strategic, but also just even trying to set the car up as well for these long corners. We normally set the car up to for road court, street tracks, and this is obviously a permanent facility with very long corners. It's not very Formula E-esque, so big change, and hopefully we've done the right steps to be competitive. But the whole approach to the weekend will have to be slightly modified.
And when it comes to qualifying, traditionally with the street course, it's much more narrow. Since this is a wider course, very different. Does this make qualifying a little bit more forgiving if somebody's not towards the front?
Yeah, I think track position here won't be as key. Obviously, there's some races where it's very, very critical, but the nature of how the race is going to play out with the energy consumption, it's very aggressive, the amount of coasting and region we have to do. So that's going to open up a lot of opportunities to overtake. So track position at the side of the race shouldn't be that critical.
And when it comes to the two long stretch, of course, the front stretch, then the back stretch is a little bit of a curve. Would that sort of make the car a little less balanced and, a little unstable going through there?
In terms of stability, no. Obviously, just creates a bit more scrub in the coasting phase, but it's the same for everyone, so it should be okay.
Mitch Evans, thank you so much for your time, and best of luck to you.
Thank you. Cheers.
Tim, welcome to Portland. How exciting is it to be in a permanent road course with the Formula E Series, which is traditionally on street courses?
Yeah, it's going to make things quite different, especially from a strategy perspective in the races. The tow is going to have a massive effect on efficiency, so that's going to play a big role in how people strategize their races. In terms of qualifying, there's lots of combined corners, which theoretically is not actually very, very good for our car, but it might make it will be very difficult to drive. So carrying good speed will be very key, and then adapting the car as quickly as possible, because like you say, this circuit is not normal for us, so it'll be about how the teams mechanically adapt the car as quickly as possible to suit this circuit.
And when it comes to the long straightaways, we saw in Berlin a lot of pack racing, drafting. Do you anticipate the same here? And will those longer corners make it where everyone's closer together, or will it spread out the field potentially?
I think in the first half we'll see everyone very, very close, because everyone will want to be in the slipstream. I think the people who are close to the front will be holding everyone up because they don't want to be leading. So I think we'll see a similar kind of thing to Sao Paulo. I think after halfway through, when people have saved, more or less, then maybe we might see some packs spreading out, but I think for the first definitely 10 laps, I think things will stay pretty close.
And when it comes to that first corner, Shelton chicane, we've seen that cause trouble for IndyCar in the start, NASCAR. When it comes to Formula E, what's the big concern going into that corner? Is that something you're thinking want to be towards the front or towards the back in case the chaos does occur?
Yeah, well, obviously, like in most categories, chaos is normally around the mid-pack. But it's very wide, so it's a bit of a luxury for us. Like, the entry is very wide, so but obviously then it all gets a bit tighter in turn 2. So I think qualifying is going to be very important here. If you can stay in that front train in the first half of the race, like I was mentioning before, if you can stay in the top 10, then I think you can score points. But obviously you've got to qualify well to do that. And I think with our powertrain at the moment in the straights, we're a little bit down, so it might be tough. But let's see.
Dan Tickton, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck to you.
No problem. Thank you.
Jake Dennis, welcome to Portland. How excited are you to be at this track, especially since Mike Andretti He's raced here. You got a lot of folks from IndyCar that have raced here as well too.
Yeah, big race for us. We're really excited to be here in Portland for the first time. It's a little bit different to the start of New York, but yeah, home race for us, home race for the team, and obviously Michael's here this weekend to try and watch me get the job done. But yeah, it's one I'm looking forward to.
Now, of course, you're in a tight points battle with Pascal Wehrlein. As I mentioned and Reddy, they have some knowledge of this track. Do you feel like you have an upper hand advantage compared to Pascal?
Not massively, just purely because IndyCar is so different to Formula E, so that you can't really transfer any of that knowledge over. But yeah, I think everyone's in the same boat. It's a new circuit for all of us, so no real home advantage as of yet. But hopefully we can just try and hit the ground running and get the job done early on.
And one of the things a lot of people are anticipating, this is going to be a very fast race, and concerns of pack racing, which we saw a little bit in Berlin. Do you anticipate the same kind of racing?
Yeah, 100%. I think Berlin will be like a small percentage of what we'll see here. I think it will be even more extreme. I think qualifying will be the highest top speeds we've seen in this car before, so that's really exciting. And then the racing itself will be quite a procession, like a lot of pack racing, like you mentioned, and just try and be there at the end when it matters.
Jake Dennis, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck to you.
No worries. Thank you, guys.
Eduardo Martora, welcome to Portland. How excited are you to be at this track, and especially a permanent road course for Formula E?
Well, excited firstly to be here. It's the first time for me in this part of America, and first time for me in Portland. So happy to discover a little bit more from the racing track and also from the area.
Now we saw you and your teammate. You all had a meet and greet earlier. What's been your thoughts on the fan response for this event?
We will see. I mean, it's everything to discover. I hope that there will be quite a lot of people. So let's see if this event also can be entertaining for them.
Now, one of the things we know, this season hasn't exactly been the greatest compared to past years where you're in championship contentions. When it comes to this weekend, is the goal to try score points? Or are you still even more driven to go get wins since, you're got a little less to lose, go for the wins?
Yeah, as you said, this season has been difficult for me. I was a title contender in the last 2 years, and definitely it's kind of difficult to accept, because the season has been extremely difficult. But I'm going for the best that I can achieve, trying to understand more and more what we have to do in order to be more and more competitive, especially from my side. And I believe that at some point it's going to work. Hopefully it's going to be in Portland.
Eduardo Martora, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck to you this weekend.
Thank you.
Now, one of the things that makes this race very interesting for the Formula E World Championship, being that it's the third longest track when it's usually IndyCar or even for NASCAR, this is one of the shorter road courses. So it's very interesting with these smaller cars. They're faster. They're going to be really trying to save the energy throughout the race. One of the big things, of course, with this race, you're going to have tomorrow practice 2, qualifying, and that's where it's going to be really interesting because you don't have anyone you could try to draft with, try to get a slipstream. It's going to be really 1 versus 1 in the knockout elimination format. So the pole might be very interesting to see what happens on that first lap. Will the pole sitter go for the lead and potentially risk losing more energy, or will they have somewhat of a poor start or just sort of fall back to ensure they save energy for the remainder of the race? It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Another interesting factor, the Shelton chicane. This is known as Calamity Corner for the NASCAR IndyCar series. They have narrowed the entry to the Shelton chicane, so it's going to be a little bit more narrow, so a little bit more of a 90-degree corner. You can't just take that inside curb. As you see, it's been blocked off. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens at the start of this race tomorrow right here for the Portland E-Prix. Now, of course, tomorrow, Grid Life pre-race, we're going to have Edward from Formula E Zone, Joshua Burch, as well as Ben. They're going to be all previewing this race, plus some of the video interviews from this weekend. Julia will be on the air as well, too, for MotoGP, the Dutch TT, and the NASCAR Ally 400 from Nashville Super Speedway, plus a Royal Rally Championship update. Busy weekend for the grid ranking. We want to thank our Patreon subscribers, calling the show, Mark, Robin, and our newest one, David. They help us pay the bills. They help us get to the track. You too can invest in the Grid Network. Click on the link in the video description. Also, you could do Buy Me a Coffee, where you could buy a cup of coffee for a particular Grid Network team member. We'll greatly appreciate it, and we'll thank you on the air. Joe Samaniego for the Grid Network. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for watching us right here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and check out some of our other videos, including Life on the Grid, where we interview folks from the motorsports industry. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.